Hi everyone, hi, this is Christine and welcome to my channel. Welcome back to tonight's live session. So today I'm going to be diving into an exciting forecast, for example. So when could silver realistically reach $160 per ounce? And why buying silver right now might just be the perfect opportunity to really secure and look at securing major future gains. Now, let's look at this in deeper contents here. So, have you been sitting on the fence about investing in gold or silver or precious metals, for example? So, Tonight's video is going to be about changing your perspective forever. For example, imagine buying silver today and that within 5 years your investment could skyrocket, for example, to $125 per ounce. So let's break this down exactly why and how this could happen. I also want to mention that you've seen in the news about Spain and Portugal, the blackouts, and that people weren't able to access their own money, through the cash machines, the digital access. Now, this is also gold and silver, coins, bars, whatever, for example, physical precious metals, for example, can be used as a tool for you to be able to purchase things. Now, in some states in America, they have made it legal tender, for example. Now, it is becoming the new gold standard, and Wyoming, for example, and Alabama, they have passed. It's called the Physical Gold Reserve Bill, because they know the vulnerability that we are facing and that we're possibly under. For example, we've seen that example with Spain and Portugal, for example, people being without power, outages, and they couldn't access their own money. And now there's a bill out. They need to draw out more than £3,000, for example, euros. They have to fill out a form, for example, to do that, or they could be fined, for example, like $150, for example. So I wanted to really just mention that because it's current, it's in the news. For example, there is a constitutional legal tender that is to do with silver and gold, sound money, safe haven, for example. It's not happened all around the world, I'm not saying that, but in some states like Alabama, Wyoming, Utah, for example, there's about 14 to 15 states that are recognizing this, and Idaho did this 60 days ago as well. So people are adapting to owning their own money, which is gold and silver, because we can't really rely on the currency system the way it is at the moment. So it's always good to start thinking about, if you haven't done so already, start thinking about a backup system. Now, I am not a financial advisor at all. I am just a human being who is coming up to 60, planning to save for her retirement. And that is with silver and gold stacking, for example. So if you need to seek professional investment advice, then you need to speak to an expert. Okay, I am just a normal human being, for example, who has been dealing with gold and silver, scrap gold and silver, since 2007, for example. And I know that it is a good liquidity to have, for example. Now, the saying used to be cash is king, right? You remember that? Well, not anymore. Gold and silver is the key now, really, to our futures. And by us looking at this and going through this, it's really preparing us for any eventuality so that we are as safe and secure as possible. I'm not doom and glooming whatsoever. I just want you to be aware. You know, the governments are doing it, the central banks are doing this. Why should the people not do this as well? So join me as I dive into this more. So first of all, the main thing is to understand the gold to silver ratio right now. Now, bear in mind, I have been through 3 recessions, for example, and I'm going to say this, where we are today is like my 3rd, for example, because even though we haven't been told that this is a recession, this looks and walks and smells and talks like a recession. As far as I'm concerned, it could even be worse than what I've ever experienced. I don't know what is going to happen. So 2008, I got hit, for example, with a recession, which was really a really bad recession worldwide, for example. Then we had COVID. Again, that caused a recession. And now we're facing this situation today, for example. Although we haven't been told literally that this is a recession. But right now, gold and silver ratio is extremely high. It's 100 to 1 historically. This ratio has averaged around 50 to 1 to 70 to 1. So that means that silver is significantly undervalued compared to gold. So if this ratio corrects back towards historical advantages, silver prices will surge dramatically. Silver and gold is a very good investment. It is a good safe haven. It is a long-term plan. Like for me, I am planning to retire in 10 years' time, for example. So for me, I don't know what my retirement amount is going to be when the time comes, for example. So this is why I'm trying to create this safe haven of building, stacking with gold and silver, for example, over a 5 to 10 year period. 10 year really is where I'm aiming for. That is my goal. And I do have a stacking guide here, which is a free guide that you can download and you'll be able to see it. I also have a video on that, which I will put here after this video is rendered through. I will put it here so that you can see the video as well as the stacker as well. Okay, this is a 10-year stacking plan. So for example, if gold moves towards $5,000 per ounce, and a realistic possibility given the economic trends, and yes, I know at the moment gold is going down slightly and so is silver been going down slightly, but it goes back up again and down, but they're kind of holding its own. But if you was here a year ago, you know that gold was, you know, like 1,000 less, for example. So, you know, it is a good investment. Same with silver. Although silver is it's dragging its heels. It's like the tortoise, like I keep saying. It's like the tortoise that's, I believe, is going to win the race because of the demand for silver has made it more, not just industrial, but also in a way that we need it for our everyday lives as well. So imagine that gold reaches 5,000 per ounce, a realistic possibility, like I said, given the economic trends, and the ratio drops to just 40 to 1. Silver would easily reach around $125 per ounce or even higher, for example. So let's look at the supply and demand dynamics. So let's talk about this briefly. Now, why is silver not just a precious metal? It is an essential metal as well. Silver is an industrial application as well, especially with solar panels, for example, electric vehicles, medical equipment, electronics, for example, AI, for example, renewable energy. All of the tech, all of these things makes it valuable, for example. So this deficit, because of the shortage of the supply, can't meet the demand, for example. Let me tell you right now, the banks, everybody, large banks, government organizations, billionaires, millionaires, they are ordering gold and silver by the tons, not by the ounce. They're not doing ounce by ounce. They're ordering it by the tons, thousands of tons. So why is that? Because they know it's a safe haven. They know that the inflation, for example, the global economic uncertainty that we're facing, the investors flocking to precious metals as a safe haven. So silver currently is undervalued, like I said, and it offers the best risk reward ratio, for example, amongst all investments. It's historically, its behavior shows that in a period of inflation and currency devaluation, silver often sees exponential growth. So you will see exponential growth at some time. So another part of this is realistic timeline and profit potential. So what does this mean for you, the investor? Let's say you buy silver, for example, today at approximately $35 per ounce. So if you buy a silver coin, for example, like this one, for example, this is a collector's coin, and it is like bullion mint. There's only 15,000 worldwide, but I was just showing you the example. For example, keep saying for example, apologies for that. So $35 per ounce within 5 years, for example, based on historical corrections and market trends, we could realistically see silver valued at $160 per ounce. It could happen sooner. I'm just being realistic and being very, calm with how I'm saying this, for example. So this would mean a potential profit of around $125 per ounce. An extraordinary return on investment, for example. And yes, as it goes up, you'll be buying it at the price that it is, for example. So that's if you was to do this today, for example. So let's look at what the investment strategy and the calculations would be, for example. So consider buying just silver coin each week over the next 12 months, for example. That's 52 coins a year, for example, and at today's price, $35 for a coin, that's an investment of $1,820, for example, annually, if you was to buy it over a weekly basis, for example. After 5 years, you would have accumulated 260 silver coins. That's 260 silver ounces as well, for example. So with that in mind, coins potentially worth around $160 in 5 years, the total investment would be, for example, 41,600 compared to the initial total investment that you paid, 9,100 over 5 years, for example. That would give you a massive profit of 32,500. And I know that some of you have been buying silver for 10 years or more. So congratulations to those of you that started many years ago, for example. So let's look at this, and let's look at this movement to act, because at the end of the day, the economy and the currency is just going down and down. No one is really trusting the dollar to hold its value. It's going down in value, for example. So what I'd like you to do is to join me to look at, if you haven't done that already, because some of you have been purchasing silver, for example, but if you are new to this channel, for example, go to your local dealer, for example, and see what the gold and silver prices are that they can offer to you, for example. Also, I do have a link here for you to check it out. It's JM Bullion, for example, to buy physical gold. I'm not talking about paper gold, I'm talking about holding that physical gold. Now, when you do go to buy gold, for example, you may be requested to fill out a form, for example. In America, this is, I'm referring to paperwork. But what I'd love for you to do is to download the free 10-year stacker. And also, I'm going to put some extra gifts in there, the guide, the gold guide, building your gold guide and silver guide, for example. The 10-year stacker also covers a 12-month period as well, for example, so that you can start with doing the 12-month first and then build up to the 10-year. Just get yourself into a routine, because silver is a safe haven. It is a new, to me and to the world, it is becoming the new monetary system. And silver and gold, precious metals, it is becoming a lot stronger, because they're now passing more bills regarding that, so that in the eventuality of, say, what happened to Portugal and to Spain, for example, that, you know, because you weren't able to access, people weren't able to access the cash points, etc., because of the outages, having those silver coins physical could, you know, have made things a lot more easier for people, even though it was very stressful. I would not like to have been in that situation myself. It must have been very stressful to the people that live and were on holiday there. To, you know, I you know, really do feel for them. It must have been a difficult time. But, you know, this is why we're seeing these patterns, we're seeing these signs, and it's time for us to really take action to really create an incredible chance right now of silver being at the price that it is. It is an opportunity that doesn't come very often at this price, for example, before it goes up, for example. Let's look at securing our financial future as well. And I want to put a disclaimer in here. As always, I am not a financial advisor, so please do your own research and consult a financial professional before making significant investment decisions. And I'd like to say thank you so much for joining me tonight in this live. I hope that you found it helpful, and thank you so much for your subscriptions to the channel, as well as your likes, as well as your comments. I want to hear your feedback, whether you agree with what I've said or not. You know, I still want to hear your feedback, because I will answer your questions that you have as well from my own point of view. Like I said, I am just a woman who is coming up to being 60 in a couple of months' time, and I was doing scrap gold parties, silver and gold parties in 2007, for example, turning scrap broken jewelry into gold bars and silver bars, for example. And I know that this works. And I started talking about this last year, August, saying that we need to start looking at building a crisis fund, creating a monthly savings plan. And I see, even though silver is at $35 and under, for example, even though the spot price currently is around about $32, for example, for 1 ounce of silver, for example, when you do purchase from a dealer, obviously they've got to put their price on there, so it may be just slightly a bit higher than what I've said. So check out the prices when you go to check out your dealer, see who your local dealer is, and go and visit them, introduce yourself. Let's help the community as well. But there's also a link here as well of JM Bullion, for example. You can check out their website. The link is there in the comments, for example, as well as in the description. And see, you know, some people want to buy gold. You know, it's up to you. It's what you can afford. Maybe you want to just purchase a gram of gold or a quarter ounce of gold, for example, not an ounce of gold, because an ounce of gold will cost you round about now $3,200, for example. So maybe you just want to buy half an ounce. Maybe you just want to buy a quarter of an ounce of gold, for example. But like I said, silver, I believe, again, it is a tortoise, and I believe that it is going to win the race. It's going to be a big surprise for us all. It's these patterns that are coming up over and over, and their opportunity really of a lifetime if you didn't catch the last wave, for example. And silver being the price that it is, I believe it's irresistible as well. And remember, I've mentioned as well about the mines, for example. Well, the mines have only got, globally, they've only got like 20 years of silver stock left, for example, unless they find new mines. So with all of this high demand, we're using more silver for electronic vehicles, AI, for example, medical equipment, you know, renewable energy, the list goes on and on, technology. So we're using it more. So we're going to be like speeding up with draining the silver mines, for example. So I just wanted to share that with you. I do believe that silver will hit $160, and hopefully you can understand why I've said that it can, and I believe it will reach that. Silver, precious metals, gold, it's a long-term game. It's not about flipping. It is a long-term game. It's a 5 to 10 year long-term game, but it is well worth it. So I hope that video today, and join me tomorrow, because I will be going live tomorrow at the same time, and hopefully you'll be able to join me. If you've got any questions, just drop in the comments here and I'll answer them regarding them. Yeah, thank you for saying that. So hope you're right about silver, because it's being taken off Yeah, it is. It's grown from a year. If we look at how it was a year ago, same with gold as well. It's grown. So it has to be, we have to, when we purchase it, we can't look at it to flip it. It's not a risky, get rich quick scheme. It is something that will develop over time. And that is the key. And that's what a lot of people have done, those that have been doing it for 10 years or more, even from people who've been doing it from when they're a child, for example. And look, they've got a big lump sum to pay for things. And yes, Jeffrey, you're right. I'm following it every single day, many times during the day, because I enjoy doing it. And I enjoy how it is actually growing. I mean, currently at the moment, I'll just give you the live price right now. Silver, let's have a look here. So it's at $31.97. So it's gone down by minus 42 cents. That's the thing with silver. The risk is smaller than what it is with gold, for example. But it's going to go back up again like it does. It goes down a bit and it goes up. We just got to accept that that is what happens with precious metals. That's what happens with gold and silver. But look, the percentage is still strong, for example. With gold, let me just tell you the price with the gold currently at the moment is at $3,238.30, and that's gold. Gold, as it's going back up again, it's now green, but it was red, for example, and gold lost $1, for example. So, this is how it is, but it is holding its own. It's standing the test of time, and you've mentioned here, Jeffrey, but I haven't gone up much. There was talk of it going to $50, then $100, then $300, but I'm still about 30. So let me just explain something to you as well. There's this coin that I got, for example, and I got it for $34. It's a collector's coin, don't get me wrong. For example, it's a silver 1 ounce coin, $1 Australian, and I got it because it had my company logo on. So that's what attracted me to this. I went to get a silver coin and I saw this and it just stood out to me. And when I took it back home, for example, because I live in Cyprus, I've lived in America, I've lived in New York, I've lived in New Jersey, I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in the UK, obviously, because of my accent. I live in Cyprus, for example. But with this coin, for example, I 3x'd what I paid for, and that's silver. With this silver coin, I 3x'd it because it is a collection. There's 15,000 worldwide, for example. So I 3x'd my investment, and that was with a silver coin. How cool is that? So, for me, I'm also looking at silver coins stacking, but I'm also looking at some collector's coins as well, because I find them interesting because there's a lot of history. So with that coin that I just showed you, I did get a certificate with it as well, and that is all intact as well. So I'm doing a mixture of silver coins, for example, collector coins, gold, for example. That's going to be part of my stacking journey, with also getting the certificates as well. So that's where I am currently at the moment for saving for my retirement. You know, although it's 10 years away, I don't know what my retirement amount is going to be, because I've heard from some people, for example, that they've had to delay their retirement by a year because they've lost a year's retirement money that they was meant to start this year, but due to the stock market crashing, they lost a year's retirement money, so they couldn't retire this year as they'd hoped to. So this is also another good reason to start stacking and to be able to have that safe haven, so that when you do retire, for example, I'm not saying everyone here is retiring, but if you are looking to retire, when you do retire, you've got the gold and silver that you can give yourself a little treat with, you know, go on a little holiday or treat yourself to something, or give a loved one a gift. You know, all of these things really, you know, just to help elevate your life, for example, not living from check to check, for example. So I hope that that was helpful for you today, and thank you. You said it's lovely. I agree. Let's have a look here. It is my belief we're heading for a big crash in everything. Too much debt in the world. Too much debt in the world. Let's face it, the Feds, they're basically on panic mode right now. So this is why the governments, they're buying all of this gold and silver by the tons, thousands of tons they're buying, literally, because they are panicking about the currency. Yeah, the debt is huge. The debt is huge, and we don't know. That's why it's important to have physical gold and silver, because if it's with someone else, sometimes it can be confiscated, for example, because they may need it instead. So just be mindful of that, and by stacking you can see the growth, and by recording it you can see the growth as well. Metals should they'll be okay. There's so many different metals, and I'm going to do a video about that, because there is a lot of metals out there, precious metals. So I am going to be doing a video about that. I believe on Sunday I'll be doing a video about that, about all the different precious metals, because it's gold and silver are the most popular ones, but there's other ones as well. Cash is losing money so much. They're printing money, but it's like they're sweeping everything under the carpet. And it's not going to go away if you don't clear it up, for example. So we can really be in better control with having silver and gold physical in our own hands, for example. So it's in our possession rather than in a vault somewhere. And yes, if you've got a vault that's close to where you are, then that's great. It depends how much you're wanting to purchase, for example. Some people, they've got things in their garden. You know, there's a safe called a dirty man safe. They plant it in the garden. People are doing what used to happen in the old days. Do you remember people would go around with bags of coins? Well, you don't remember, we wasn't around then, maybe. And, you know, bags of coin, and they would pay for things. You know, cowboys used to walk around with coins. They didn't have, you know, they weren't there with dollars. Think about, I'm from Nottingham, you know, I'm from the UK, I was born in Nottingham. So, you know, I remember the stories of Robin Hood, for example, and, you know, I just think about all of these things, and it's like history is repeating itself. It's like we have to go back in time, but we've also got to build relationships with our communities as well, so that if the grid does go down, you know where to go and how to plan for things. The unfortunate thing that happened in Spain and Portugal, for example, with the electricity outage, for example, there was no sort of like emergency backup plan with anything, for example. You know, like when, you know, you're at work, for example, you have like an, you know, fire alarm. What do you do in a fire drill? We don't have that. What do you do in the event the electricity goes out? What happens if there's a crisis? What happens if there's what survival skills will we have in place? Yeah, Robin Hood. That's where I'm from, Nottingham. That's where I was born. And I went to Sherwood Forest quite a few times. So, you know, we've got to look at these things and really plan, because it's not just about the coins, the gold and the silver, it's about community. And I've also put here in my playlist about community, building community. But building a community now is even more stronger, because what do we do in the event that our electricity goes? Where do we go? Who's going to do what? You know, where can we get water from? Because if we can't get it from the tap, you know, all of these things. So we need to start thinking about having an emergency, you know, crash equipment. And I remember talking about this 20 years ago to my husband, saying, oh, I think we need to do some sort of emergency crash thing, like have electric generator. And we had an electric generator back then, but it's quite smelly, isn't it? So it's not something you want to have on all the time, for example, because back then it can give off fumes as well. But they're a lot safer now. But I think we need to start looking at having an emergency kit, not just gold and silver, emergency kit, you know, tins of food that we can purchase, so that we're building up a stock for in the event that we're faced with an emergency. And make sure you got a can opener or something that, you know, the can opener is there on the tin, for example. Dried eggs, you know, all of these different things we need to think about, because what happens if the grid goes down for us? It happened in Portugal, it happened in Spain, so it can happen to any of us. Even though they're looking into it, why it happened, they're saying it's not a cyber attack, but why in two places at the same time? There's still a lot of unanswered questions there. But even though I was talking about gold and silver, it is really about survival. And by knowing your community, you can see who's good at doing what, who specializes in what, for example. and then you can all work together to help with survival. And I know it seems strange me speaking in this way, but we never know. We never know. So Jeffrey says, watch this regarding the power. Yeah. It's can be quite scary. But if we plan and we think about, okay, let's put ourselves in an emergency situation, what can we do? What can we do? And that community will have a plan in place. You know, like, for example, where we are, for example, if there was, God forbid, a war, we would know where to go to for shelter. So where would you go to for shelter, for example? Where would you go? And what items would you take with you? Do you have an emergency kit, a rucksack? You know, what do you have? It's not just about the gold and silver, because there's other things as well. Because if the shop's not open, then you can't buy anything because it's going to be closed. But there'll be someone there that you can barter with because you've got a coin, for example. I'll trade that for this, and they'll do the same, for example. So we've got to think in this way. I know it seems unimaginable, but after what I've seen with Spain and Portugal, it's really made me think about things. And that's what I'm going to be planning this weekend. I've already done my survival kit list, so I am going to be doing a video on that on Sunday if you want to join me for that, a survival kit, because you just never know. We can never say it's not going to happen. So thank you so much for your comments. I've really appreciated this. I really have, and I'm glad that you're thinking about gold and silver and looking at it as a long-term investment. But also start stacking now. The price is at the right price for silver. Start stacking now, because you never know, you could need it a lot sooner. So this is the right time to buy. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. I hope that you've enjoyed today's live, and do join me tomorrow at the same time, same place. And tomorrow I'm going to be talking a bit more about sound money and the constitutional legal tenders as well. So the video will be about silver and gold laws, for example, and also the controls. But on Sunday I'll be talking about survival as well. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for your comments. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you all. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and thank you for your likes and your comments, and enjoy the stacker and the free guides as well. Start looking at them, and I can't wait to share with you the survival guide as well on Sunday. Take care, everyone, and I'll speak with you tomorrow. Hopefully you can make it. Thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.